Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to transmit my special greetings to Mr. Nazim Zaid and all staff of Electoral Commission of India, who have prepared this outstanding conference. Thank you by your hospitality. I'd like to thank either UNDP. I'm very honored to be here with you today. I've prepared a speech to highlight a specific experience in Brazil. My objective is to expose, in general terms, an example of a successful practice of electoral literacy in everyday life that enhances representative democracy and supports formal channels of political deliberation. The example comes from Rio de Janeiro, in an area of petroleum exploitation. The project is called Petroleum Territories, Royalties and Citizen Watch in Campos Basin. In order to give an overview of the Brazilian institutional framework in political and electoral issues, it's important to consider the Brazilian Constitution of 1988. The Brazilian Constitution of 1988 represents a very important moment in the history of Brazilian democracy after a period of military dictatorship. It is known as the Citizen Constitution because it has introduced an extensive list of rights. It has assumed a substantial commitment to democracy, pluralism, and social development. And it has established important mechanisms to promote a strong civil society and to ensure access to justice. For the purpose of these reflections, it's important to emphasize one aspect of the Brazilian institutional and social context before the Constitution. During the military dictatorship, politics could only be exercised through the state, and it opposed, in general circumstances, political action against the government. In some sense, there was an institutional view that citizenship and patriotism were similar ideas. A slogan introduced by the government that spread all over the country sums up this thought: Brazil, love it or leave it. This concept of civism was taught in the schools because it was mandatory in the curriculum. I think this element is important to understand how we deal with political and electoral education under one aspect. We have some difficulty in facing this issue in formal education. The state has to be cautious about teaching politics in the schools. The state and the schools must respect different views of democracy and politics. Considering this framework, what we have to talk about is the Brazilian experience in political participation. In Brazil, the exercise of the vote is considered a duty by citizens. Men and women from 18 to 65 years old are obliged to vote. I consider that we have a solid legal framework to protect the right to vote without discrimination. The election process is organized by the judiciary branch, the electoral justice. We have a trustful registration process. We spend large amounts of human and economic resources to guarantee the fairness of the electoral process. The electoral process is not perfect. We have some problems with the economic power, election financing, media influence. However, I think the decisive challenges to improve Brazilian democracy lie in another area. As in many countries, there is a crisis in Brazilian democracy. People do not see themselves represented by the politicians. There is a problem of accountability. Ethical and informed voting demands accompanying the day-to-day work done by the politicians during their mandate. The watchword is social control over the government, not only in the elections, but between the elections. Brazil is a large country, and we have many initiatives all around the country aiming to control the political force, involving people and organizations of civil society, and the state agents from all the three branches of government. I will present specifically an environmental education project that focuses on the enhancement of citizenship. This project was financed by an oil company as a legal duty derived from the exploitation of oil in Rio de Janeiro, and it is coordinated by a university following the guideline established by the Federal Environment Agency of Brazil. This project, called Petroleum Territories, how I said, a royalties and citizen watch in the campus basin, started in 2014 and lasted 24 months. During the studies that preceded the authorization to exploit oil in the campus basin in Rio de Janeiro, it was identified that people have no information about how the oil industry could interfere in the life of the community. In fact, it is important to emphasize that Brazilian legislation obliges oil companies to pay periodically a fee to the municipalities as compensation for the use of natural resources. In the campus basin, this money represents, in some cases, up to 50% of the municipal budget. The objective of this project is to deal with the citizens' lack of information and improve mechanisms for social control over the use of public resources, especially the royalties. It's important to see that royalties are temporary incomes because petroleum ends. And how they work, this project? The project establishes educational activities in 3 stages. First, we had an awareness process. It was done by an itinerant pedagogical group called the Caravan of Citizenship to transmit and receive information from the people. The caravan consists of a mobile unit with multimedia and expositions rooms. The activities done by the caravan offer notions about environmental education and citizenship and develop social cultural activities, such as movies, theater, debates. In the second stage, we had a training process. 10 to 12 agents in each municipality involved in the project, chosen between community leaders from different society segments, were selected, such as members of residents' association, labor unions, trade associations, school teachers associations, rural workers, fishing communities, students' associations. In the third stage, we had the implementation of the Citizen Watch Centers. The groups were formed to interact with local authorities acting in the surveillance. This group should mobilize the civil society. After the awareness process of the population and the training process of the agents of education action, 10 centers of Citizen Watch were formed in the municipalities covered by the project. In this last step, the focus was on direct approach about the use of royalties to promote an active citizenship. As a result of the project, we can say that there was a better perception by the population about the impact of the royalties in the receipts of the municipalities. However, the complexity of the subject indicates that a permanent study is necessary to consolidate the learning process. Well, there is a new cycle of the project in preparation to start next year. So, to finish, I'd like to show you the channels we use to communicate, and I'd like to thank you so much for your attention.